Hello and welcome to another beard clipper video. This is a bit of a different video, as you can tell from my position. I'm going to show you how I went about making this, which is based around the Santa's Express box from Hornby, which is brilliant value and really, really awesome. So what we have here is a model railway. And as you can hear, we have a train going around it. And I can tell you that yesterday, when my daughter Rosie saw this, she was enthralled. And I was just over the moon by how happy she was to see the train, and she kept saying choo choo, choo choo, and it was brilliant. Anyway, let's stop that now. I will now stop blabbering and you can enjoy the build. And please let me know if you've got one of these or if you've made a railway before to go around your tree, or if you have memories of it. Pop comments below, I'd love to hear your stories. So please enjoy, and I'll see you again at the end. As is traditional, I didn't have my microphone turned on. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this box from Hornby, which is the Santa's Express, which comes with one pannier tank loco and 2 trucks, one of which has a load of presents in it and one of which is dragging Santa's sleigh. Now, a few people have made a few jokes about what does Santa need a train for. Well, clearly in the rule of 6 world, you can't have all of those reindeer together. So this is the only way you can get around during COVID. So there we are. So we'll have a look inside the box, and you can see that it comes very well packed. The delicate stuff is wrapped inside of some nice tissue paper, which has kept it safe, and you get a whole bunch of curve and then a couple of short straights, one of which comes with a pre-attached connector, which is really cool. That's very useful. I wasn't really in the mood for doing welding as part of this build, and so I didn't have to. Now, it does come with a UK socket. I ordered it from UK Amazon. Pretty sure you'll be able to get this from America and also from the rest of Europe if you want a different socket. It didn't matter for us, but it is an analog controller. It is not digital, but again, that doesn't really matter. This is only a little bit of fun. As I said before, the carriages are wrapped in that nice material to keep it safe, and you can see there are the presents. That actually comes out, so it's a nice weighted piece of kit. Gives a nice bit of weight to the engine, which means that you can get a nice slow, prototypical for Santa's Express movement. And then within there is the imaginary Santa's sleigh. The engine is very nice. It's a bit plasticky, but it's not as plasticky as the reviews made me worried it may be. It's a good bit of kit. I actually was very impressed when I opened this. I thought it was going to be a lot worse, a lot more rubbish, but the track is very good quality. And yeah, pretty happy, pretty impressed with this purchase. So if you are thinking about it, you can be pretty confident in buying this and not worry about the quality of what you're going to get. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull all the track out and set it up and see just what size it comes to, and have a little bit of a fiddle around with it. So I'll pop some music on and you can enjoy. So it didn't take too long to put the track together, and I also got myself a bit of a diagram, a little bit of a plan. So let me zoom in on that quickly. This is my super duper plan, and it is positioned as it will be. So we're going to have a bridge with arches and then a mountain at the back. So if I zoom back out again so you can see the track layout, what this will mean is that all the way around here will be arched bridges, probably all the way around to about here. The reason I want to have the mountain at the back is because then I will have a little shelf here for the controller to sit on, so that'll be nice and tidy. And I'll probably have the mountain running to here and then bridges all the way around there. Now I'm also thinking that I may very well do a tunnel, maybe just a small tunnel, but I will probably do a tunnel because I think that will look quite cool, and that will be back here somewhere. Probably not where the joiner is, because that'll make it a bit more difficult to work with. But yeah, that's the basic plan. Now, how I'm going to achieve that, initially, 1 second, I have a sheet of my 1 centimetre blue foam, which as you can see is I'm going to need 2 of them probably to do what I'm planning on doing. The idea will be to have the right of way, the going, cut out in one whole piece as much as I can so that it has a little bit more structural integrity out of this blue foam. So I might need to get another sheet just to do this last bit. And then I will set that on top of maybe some white foam for the arches and for the back for the cliffs. So that's the idea. Let's see how it works. I'm quite excited about this. I'm going to get going on this as quick as I can. I only have 9 days, as I keep getting told, so I better crack on, and I'll bring you along to show you how I do it as I go. So we're through in the games room now because I'm getting a bit more space, and I can also hide it from Rosie easier, who does go into the lounge every now and then. So what I've done is, obviously I did this drawing of this line around, and I've been thinking that I probably made a mistake there, which does happen, so I'm going to correct it. And what I've done is I've made this little jig here, and what it is basically is I've measured out, so that's 10 centimeters, that's 8, and that's 7, okay, and that's just the random size. And what I've also done is I've put a little knock on a bit of cardboard on the bottom, which is the width of the tracks, and so I'll be able to basically slide that around like so, and get the same distance on each side of the track for the base. So rather than it being like iffy and dodgy as it is at the moment, a bit wibbly wobbly, which isn't really what I want, it's going to be more even, and I'm probably going to do this at 10 at first and just have a look and see what it looks like. Mainly the reason is because I've got 10 centimeter thick white foam which is going to be going underneath. So what I'm going to do is see whether this little jig works. I may need to pin the track down because it's probably going to move, but I probably won't do all of this on camera, but the idea is that I'll be able to do this, and that is going to get me, as you can see, a much nicer, much straighter line, which is actually going to keep the distance, as I say, keep the track central and make it look a little neater. So I'm going to pin the track down, run that jig around, get a line, and I'll bring you back when I'm about to cut it out. That worked really well, actually, much better than I expected. Very pleased. So what I'm going to do now is cut this out. Now I am thinking that it may end up that I go slightly narrower than that, but this is going to be a good starter, and all I need to do if I want to go narrower is put this down again, trace round it again, and then I can cut it down. So I have here a more flexible knife than I normally use, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very carefully cut around this shape, so like this. So I'll pop some music on and I'll get this done on both this one and on the other one. Well, there we are, that's done. I did start cutting in the wrong place then, as you probably saw. But what we can see here is that matches up very nicely. That is now an oval which will have the track on it. Now, I will now tidy up, clear up and grab the white foam, and we'll start to have a look at how that's going to work. And this is why I might find that I need to do it a little bit narrower, but of course I can do it narrower, that's fine. I've got the equipment to do it, so if I do need to do it narrower, I'll just trim off probably a centimetre or two on either side, but we'll come to that in a second. I'll just go and get the white foam and I'll show you what my thoughts are. A few experiments involving the base of a Christmas tree, and I'm pretty happy actually with the 10 that I'm going to go with, so I'm going to stick with that. So what we've got here is I'm actually making use of a present that my parents bought me a long time ago that I've never used yet. However, I've wanted to, and now I've got the opportunity. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using this sled to guide my cut so that I've got it always vertical, and I'm hoping that this wand works because sometimes it's a bit dodgy. So we're going to turn that on and we're going to try and cut it out. Now you can see I've got two levels. I've thought about this several times. I was originally going to put it on top of the 10 centimetre thick expanded parastyrene, but I think it's actually going to work better just to cut it out like this. I'll be left with quite a few offcuts, but I do use this quite a lot, so that won't go to waste. It'll just go into my big pile of stuff. So I'm going to cut around here, and I'm not following the line here. I'm coming around here because this is where there's going to be a tunnel. So the line will cut here and then disappear off, and it will go to a square back there. So let's get that turned on, heat it up, and see how well this cuts. And what I'll be doing is my cut will then go through into the bottom, as you can see, into the base, and that means that then I can come along and cut that one as well, following along the same line. So that's my plan anyway, so let's see if it's going to work. Well, that didn't work very well because the wand bent and I was not pushing that very hard. I have been very unimpressed with the wand here in this kit. I'll have a look and see what it's done and I'll come back to you in a second. So I have done that a second time. I did the top line and it was much better. I just went very, very slowly, so I won't film again because it is very, very slow. This is the second layer, and you can see where that worked quite successfully. I scored in where I want to follow, and then here I've just put a little bit of a pencil mark in again because that's where it didn't cut through, but that's actually worked okay. I've lifted it off the surface and I'm going to now do the other cut, and yeah, that's looking good. So I'll get this done and the other half done, and then I'll bring you along for the next step when I get to it. I made a little bit more progress on the Santa's Express. What I've done is I've cut out a template for the arches, which I've used to draw the arches on for each of these uprights, for each of the panels. And what I'm about to do now is I'm using the Proxon rather than the wand, just because the wand was really doing my head in. I may have to go to the wand for some of it, but I'm going to do as much of this as I can on the Proxon. And I don't know whether I'm doing this right or not, whether I regret it, but at the moment I'm planning on cutting these prior to actually gluing it together, mainly because when it's glued together it's going to be quite large, but I might end up with a few pieces that don't quite match up. So what I've got here is two of the sections. That is the top. Okay, the other way. There we are. So you can see how that matches up, like that. Okay, so this is, it's not very bright, let me just move the camera a bit, there we are. So that's how the sections will match up, and I'm not too worried about it being a little bit uneven because I will be coming over this with some texture. And what I'm doing is I've got the template, I've just had to tidy this up slightly, which is why it's kind of half done. And with a Sharpie, just drawing around it, and then what I'll be doing is I will put that through the Proxon and cut these shapes out. So that will be an arch, and that will be, so the arch will be here, this will be the arch. Oh, I need to take that off. Oh, I cut that off. So I now need to put that archway back in. That's where I had just cut just now. So let me just doop, like that, and then this will be like that. There we are. So that will be where the arch is, and then I'll be able to glue those together, and then that will be a nice solid piece. So what I'll do is I'll get the Proxon on and I'll start to carve these out. If this doesn't work, then it's just a huge waste of money, but you know, that's one of those things. So let's get that carved, get that cut. So much easier with the Proxon table than it is with the wand. So that now nicely sits on top of there. So what we're going to do is cut along that and cut along that, and then we'll be able to glue this to that, and then we'll have our first section. So I'm going to get this done for all of the cuts that I need to do, and once I've done that I will bring you along to show what it looks like and demonstrate how I'm going to glue it. I'm a little bit behind because we had another day without power today, and that really did affect my free time that I have sometimes through my working day. I couldn't take time at lunch because I'd taken time out to go and get a generator. So I'm a little bit behind on this. I'm hoping to get to the fully glued together stage tonight, So I'll be doing a lot of that, and I'll bring you along when all of that's cut and when I'm about to start gluing. What I've actually realised is I need to start gluing these together now, otherwise I'll get totally confused with all the bits. And I also need to throw away any bits I don't want over into my waste pile, which is getting bigger all the time. So for this I'm going to be using my gator glue, which I really do like. It gives a really strong bond and it goes off very quickly, so there's even a chance I might be able to get to the next stage this evening, which is going to be the air dry clay, but I doubt it. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be using toothpicks and we're going to be using gator glue. So we're going to be doing a 2-stage secure. So we'll stick a toothpick and another one in to give it a little bit of strength, and then we will push it together. There we are. And that now, when that goes off, will be nice and strong, and also we won't lose track. So that's how I'm going to glue it. So I'll just get all of that done as I can, and I'll bring you back when it's all cut and glued and dried and ready for the next step. Nothing I ever do is small or simple, is it? So now I'm coming to one of the more complex or time-consuming parts of this build. Not complex, but it's just going to take a long time. And hopefully it will work well, but I'm not 100% sure because it's curved and it's all sorts of complexities and there's gaps and stuff which I'm having to trim down. But basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be getting my air drying clay, and I've got my small Dutch bricks roller from Green Stuff World, and I'm going to be rollering out clay to cover underneath the arches and either side of the arches all the way around. Not this bit, so that's going to be left because that's cliffs, and probably I'll go right up to the edge because then I can I'll be using the Luke's APS's modelling compound over that. So I've got to put enough clay over the whole thing. So that's what I'm going to start doing. I'm just going to be doing it in the couple of minutes I have here and there during the working day, as I am lucky enough to be able to do. I've got a few minutes now at the end of my lunch, so I'm going to get started, and I really would like to have this finished this evening, both both rings finished, and what I might actually end up doing is not going up right to the very end of here and also where it joins, and that then will mean that when I glue it together, which I'll do next, I can then apply some air dry clay just over the join, and I won't have to try and line things up, and it'll make it a little bit easier. I will be covering up gaps with flock and doing painting it and making it look really nice. I've got some white grouts to do some snowy type things, so it's not supposed to look perfect, but it's just going to be a lot of air dry clay. So I better get started. You've all seen air dry clay being applied before, but I may well run the camera just with some music, just so you can watch the whole process, because I think that could be quite fun. So that's what probably is going to be coming up next. Wish me luck, and let's see if I can get it done today. was a lot of air dry clay, and there's going to be a lot more going on. I'm probably not going to bother running the camera for the rest of it. You've seen a lot of air dry clay application. What I'm going to do now is apply it all the way around the outside. Now I'm running a little low on my supplies, so I'm only going to do the outside first, and then I'll see what I've got remaining, and I'll do the inside, but where you can see it, and then after that maybe I'll have some more because I've ordered some more in, but I am running a little low on my air dry clay. So I'll just get this done and I'll bring you back when it's finished, but it's going quite well so far. I'm quite really pleased with how those are looking underneath, and yeah, fingers crossed this will continue to look good. I've moved again because I've finally finished doing all of the air dry clay around the outsides. So this is now how it's going to look. This is going to be the back, that's the front, obviously, because this is where the controller will go. So what I need to do now is glue the sections together. So we've got the join there, and then we've got another join at the back here, and they match up quite nicely. A little bit of shaving off going to be needed on this one, but that's fine. And then I'll let that to dry, and then once that's all sealed, the next steps are going to be putting some air dry clay over the joint here and fixing up a problem I've just seen here where it's broken. I need to do a little bit more air dry clay there. That hasn't stuck very well. Maybe I can fix that with some glue. So yeah, so there's a little bit of patching up to do on the air dry clay. I need to join the two together at the back here, which will be which will make it look really nice. And then I need to build the tunnel and the little bit of a raised area here and glue that on, and then it's going to be Luke's APS modelling compound time over here, and stick the actual blue XPS down where the line is going to go. I'm not going to do it as wide as that. I'm going to make it so it's only just a little bit wider than the track, so I can then put my ballast on. So we're rushing towards a conclusion, which is good because I'm rushing towards when I need it done by. So I'll get this glued together, just to use some standard of the Gorilla Glue that I use, Gator Glue that I use, and pins, and then I'll bring you back for the next step when that's done and when we're ready to start sculpting the mountain. With the ring glued together, what we're now going to look at working on is the cliff. So I've just been and marked out where I want to cut. You can see here just some rough markings, and I'll do this on the Proxon first, and then I'll get out the hot wire tools and carve it down, but probably I'll do that through in the games room. So I'm just going to do this in here because this is an easier place, and there's also a cut on the back that I need to make as well. So let's get that done. There we are. I didn't worry too much about following the lines too closely because I'll be carving this all down anyway, but that now is the shape that we want. So what I'm going to do is go through to the games room, have a look at it, mark out again where the tunnel is going to be, because I'm going to need to carve that out as a hole underneath. I think that goes roughly from here to here, and then this will be built up so that it's cliffs, and there may even be another section, maybe even that section on top, but I'm not sure. We'll find out when I look at it. I'm making this up I am making this up as I go along. I've just been and measured up where I want to have the tunnel, and I've marked out using the track so that it's definitely not going to be too close to the walls. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the hot wire foam factory cutter, which I actually like, which is their routing tool, and I'm going to do my best to follow those lines and to route this out. Now, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do when you can't see how deep you're going, but it's not going to go through too far, and as you can see it cuts really quickly. It's much better than their wand. I much prefer this tool of theirs, and while it might take several passes, it will do a good job and it will result in quite a nice tunnel, which, while it might look rough, you're not going to see inside it, are you, at the end of the day? So don't pull too fast, otherwise you'll end up dragging and then you'll end up not getting the depth you want, but you will be able to do multiple passes, and that will then resolve it. So if we pull that out, you can see I've routed out a really nice shape. Not deep enough yet, but we can keep adjusting the shape of the routing tool to get close to the edges, and it will just take several passes. So I'll get this done, and then it'll be time to start shaping the rest of the contours and deciding whether I want to have more on top of this or not, which I think I do. Anyway, onwards. Let's see if we can do this. Next up, I've just been out and I've traced around, given a little bit of a gap actually closer to the tracks. Now the reason for this is I want this to just be like the slight mound which tracks sit on, which have the ballast on. So it won't even probably end up being this thick, but this has been a really useful, this blue foam has been really useful to help me get an idea of what I'm building, and it's been good to use. I could possibly have ended up just using cardboard. It's been a bit of a waste of blue foam, but whatever. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my flexible blade again to cut along this line. Now I'm not worried too much as long as I don't go stray too far, and I want to have a slight bevel because I'll be beveling the whole thing. Just needs to be flat on top where the actual track is. So there you are, that's 1/4 done. I'll get the rest done and then I'll bring you back when I'm about to go and glue it down, which will be the step after this. I went and I put this on the board and I pushed one of the carriages around. And unfortunately, it isn't a deep enough cut. So I've been thinking about my solutions and what I'm going to do about this. And while I wanted to do a tunnel, I've kind of had a play around with it. I'm happy with how it looked, but it's obviously not worked as well as I wanted it to. What I've realised I can do, I've got 3 options. I think one of them is to put a layer underneath this. So lift this up a bit by sandwiching another layer underneath. The second option would be for me to try and carve out more in this valley that I've made and try to get it so it's high enough, but it's actually going to be a little bit difficult to do that. And the third option, which is what I'm going to do, has several different reasons why it's a better idea. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to literally cut. I'm going to cut down and have these as separate pieces. What this means I'll be able to do is to glue this on before I put the track in place, and then do the cliff face and what have you, and get that started without having the track in the way, which may then get covered in gunk and what have you. And then what I'll be able to do is I'll be able to put a section over the top which I can glue on, and I can have that as not being as cliffs. So this is going to be cliffs with bark, which I want to get done this evening, and it means I can get that done without having to worry about the track, because if there's a hole here and a hole here and there's nothing there, I can drop the track in place and glue it on after I've finished. So I'm going to use the Proxon to cut that, and that will then mean I can go away and I can glue that section on and this section on now, and then a little bit later on this evening I'll be able to go out there and stick on my bark to make the cliffs and finish off doing all of the texturing that I want to do, all of the contouring, sorry, I want to do on these sections. So yeah, let's get that cut and then go and get that glued. There we are, that's perfect. So that now will work like that, and I'll be able to go and glue that in place. So I'll go and do that. Now I'll just use the gator glue, weight it down, and then when I go to do the contouring, I'll bring you along then. I was going to start carving away and making this sloped up and what have you, but I've decided against it. I may end up doing something a bit different here, but for now I'm happy, and I'm going to start to work on a little bit more while I think about what to do on this section. I'm going to be putting some cliffs, and my cliffs, how I do cliffs is literally with bark. As you can see, I just use tree bark that I've collected. It comes with our wood delivery. So that's how I'm going to do the cliffs, and this is going to all be cliffs, and here is going to all be cliffs all the way around the inside, and then here is going to be cliffs, and then the other side there as well, so that it will look really cool, I think. But the first thing I need to do is I need to glue down this, and I've decided I'm going to leave it like this. I'm going to leave it with quite a pronounced bank. I can always build up with a little bit of Luke's APS modelling compound, which I'm going to do anyway to make it a little bit harder wearing, and so that will just give me a little bit of space so I can build up towards it with the compound. So I'm going to come along with my gator glue, and I'm going to glue these little sections, little raised sections down, onto which will eventually go the actual track. I want to say eventually, it needs to be pretty soon. It is now 11 PM. I've had another evening working on tourney and lost a lot of my hobby time, which is not good when I'm in this much of a hurry on this build, but hey, life is life. So we'll put our gator glue on like that, put it in place. It does all fit nicely, and then we'll just weight it down. That's the easiest way to do with this stuff. It does go off very, very quickly. So I'm going to do that now on the other ring as well, and then I don't know whether I'm going to start putting cliffs up. I think I am going to start putting cliffs up this evening. I've got a little bit of time before I have to head to bed. So I will show you how I do that just on at least once. I'll be back very shortly once I'm ready to start on that process. So let's make a start on this bark. So what I've got here is a section of bark which is going to fit quite nicely there. So I again use my gator glue because it's brilliant and it glues everything. Put gator glue on, put it in place where I want it to go, which is going to be there. As I say, I may build it out a little bit more. And then just using a clamp, just hold that in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and, like a jigsaw, I'm going to build that up. As much as I can before I feel too tired and can't go on tonight, and then I'll have to carry on tomorrow. And that will then look really, really good. And what will happen is the top, I've decided, I haven't said on camera yet, but this is it. The top that's going to go over the top of this is going to be removable because I want to be able to get in and clean the tracks, and I definitely don't want to be in a position where I can't get to a derail train or whatever. So the top will slot on, and I'll probably have it so that it's got, so that it kind of will butt up against there with a little bit of an overlap with the lip so that it won't slide off. So that's the idea anyway. So we're going to do this. Don't have to worry about what's going over the top. I will add that on later. So yeah, I'll get that done and I'll bring you back when it's all completed and we reach the next step. Now comes the next long process, which is applying the Luke's modelling compound. I will add up how much gets added, but basically I've got enough bark. I don't want to go too crazy with it. I'm happy to fill in and do a stone texture with the modelling compound, but I'm going to go all the way around the edges of this mound and all over any exposed foam, basically, apart from on the top there. And then when that's done and dried, I'll be able to cut a section to sit on top and then model that as well. So hopefully that'll be a bit later. I'm going to crack on now, not going to chatter too much, just got to get it done. I really don't have very much time left on this project, so I will bring you back to show what it looks like. If you want to see some epic modelling compounds, then go and check out my lakes and riverfronts video from Battle Games Middle Earth, and you'll see lots and lots, 6 kilograms to be exact. Let's see how much this takes. The next step is going to be painting, and I'm going to do, excuse me, I'm going to do the bricks first. So I've got this paint, which is the dark red that I really like, and the reddy brown that I really like for bricks. And what I'm going to be doing is just coming along and not doing a full dry brush, but also trying not to paint too much. And I'm going to cover all of the bricks. And the idea here is that it gives it a lot of colour, but it does leave some of the red behind, some of the white behind, in the gaps. So it's almost like it's almost a dry brush, but not quite. And this is how I generally do my bricks. So I'm going to get this done on all of the bricks. As you can see, it doesn't take very long. I need to remember that I need to do underneath the arches as well, and try not to have too much on my brush. It's not a dry brush, like I say, heavy overbrush maybe. I'll get that done. Might take 2 coats. I don't want to go too overboard, as I say. Less is more in this situation. Just brings out all the texture and gives it a really nice colour. So I'll get that done and then I'll bring you back for the next step when I get to it. Now that I've done the painting on the outside, or at least the first coat, I'm now going to come along with my black grout and sand mix. This is temporary because eventually I will hopefully be putting some air dry clay on the inside, but just to make it hard and make it so it doesn't actually get damaged, I don't want to be putting the Luke's modelling compound all over the inside. I'm just going to paint this on the inside, and I'm also going to paint it on the back of the diorama where it will go up against the wall, just so that it's not bare EPS, which is not very hard wearing. So I've got a big brush, I've mixed up my normal quantity, I've not gone overboard on how much I've mixed, and if I need more I'll get more. But yeah, I'll just paint this all the way around. So I'll bring you back for the next step. This is moving on His fingers crossed I'll get this done in time even. You never know. Stranger things have happened. As you can see, I've put a big lump on top of the flat area at the back, and I've just finished putting the Luke's modelling compound on it, so it's still a bit damp. My next step is to paint all of the rock faces. I'm just going to come in with the black paint. I'm not going to use the Grout mix, just black paint. So I'll be putting black paint all over this and over here, and also inside the cutting. So I'll get that done. I will maybe run the camera for a bit, but it's just painting black paint. So I might run it because it's cool. And then when that's dried, I'll be able to dry brush it, and then that'll be the rock done. Once I've done the black paint, I'm then going to come and paint all of the rest of it with my brown paint. So everywhere where I'm going to have either grass or trees or what have you will be painted, and also the actual track bed, I'll paint that with the brown paint as well. So I'll do both of those things, run the camera for a bit of both processes, and then yeah, we're flying towards a conclusion now. So I got up this morning with the plan of doing some dry brushing, but as you can see there's quite a lot that has actually been missed in the black, particularly along the inside of the cutting. So if we zoom up and to the right, you'll see this, it's going to be a bit of a harsh transfer, but there's a lot of white there. So what I'm going to do is come along with a smaller brush, and I'm going to touch those areas up, and I'll do the dry brushing later. So I'll bring you along when I'm ready for the dry brushing. Just thought I'd point that out, that happens as well to everyone. So if it happens to you, just touch it up with a smaller brush and it'll be fine. So I ended up doing that. It took ages to finish off picking out all of the black, but I'm pretty happy with how I've got it now. So what I'm going to work on now is, I've decided, I wasn't going to, but I've decided I am going to use the brown grout mix. So this is brown grout mixed with dust that I've picked up from the garden and dried, and I'm going to paint this over all of the areas that I'm going to have as earth. And the reason for this is because of the texture it's going to give, because I can then come along and give it a really nice dry brush. I was hoping to get away without this stage. I should just have done it because I kind of knew I would have to. Because it's going to look a lot better, and I'm not wanting to really cut corners. I don't want to waste time. I've got lots and lots of time to work on this, but I also don't want to cut corners. I want it to look really excellent. So I'm just going to go along, and this is going to go on all of the areas that are now brown, and part of this, it will also mean that I can then cover up the white areas in the same way as I did with the black, which is a real pain sometimes to get it to stick, as you can see. And then when that's gone off, I'll be able to do my dry brush and make it look awesome. So I'm going to get that done. I'm not going to run the camera. I think that's enough footage of me painting on this YouTube channel, if you're not sure. I may do a standalone video actually on how I do the grout mix. So I think that might be quite useful for people if you're not sure how to go about it. It's really, really simple. So I might do a quick Thursday video on that and add that to the bottom of all of my videos. So yeah, I'm going to get that done, paint it all on. It dries very, very quickly. So a bit later on today, I'll be able to come around and do the dry brush, and I'll record again when I'm doing that. With the grouting done and all of where the dirt is, I'm now going to come along where I thought I was first thing this morning. I'm going to do the heavy overbrush on the rocks. So I've got my darker grey and I've got a brush. I'll run the camera and put some music on and we'll get this done. I really love this process, doing the dry brushing. So with that overbrush done, we can move pretty much immediately onto a very lighter grey dry brush, and then I'll come along with different colours and really make it interesting. So this is going to be very light indeed, and it will bring out just the edges. So this is much more of a traditional dry brush than I was doing before. So I'm just going to make use of the newspaper that I've got here to dry the brush before I run it very lightly over the top of the rock. And it doesn't seem to do very much, but then as it dries it does more and more and more. So don't overdo it. You can always come back and add more if you're really unhappy after you've gone over it once, but don't overdo this step while you're doing it like I just did there, because it's very, very hard to remove, but it does make a difference, as you can see. So I'm not going to run the camera for all of this because it's very quick, and I thought I'd just do a bit of a close-up on this area and explain a little bit more about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, in case you haven't come across this technique before. And I'm just going to whip round now the rest of the rock, doing exactly the same thing. And then I'm going to do some odd colours, like fluorescent orange and green and what have you, because rock is not black and white. It is multicoloured. So I'll bring you along for that when I get to it. Next up is more dry brushing, but this is actually going to be on the grout that I laid down earlier, which I think is dry enough, just about. I'm brushing this a little bit, so I might stop if I find out that it's not dry enough. But I'm running out of time, so I need to carry on. So I'm going to use my Africa paint for this, which I really, really like for doing dry brushes over this paint. So we're going to take, it really is a dry brush, so we're going to take most of the paint off, and then we'll come along. There's too much paint still. Come along and just dry brush over the top of this. There we are, we're getting there, good. Anything that goes a little bit too, I will be able to cover over with the flocking, which is going to be next. But this is just to add a dry brush over the top of the grout. Yeah, it's going to go fine, it's not too dry, that's fine. So yeah, I'll get this done. Same technique, but I need to have less on my brush than I had there. So yeah, I'll get the rest of this done, and I'll bring you back for the next step, which will be starting to flock, I think. Yay, very exciting. I admit that I have run my track tester LED thing on here, which is not going to work because I've got the power off. So I have run it around, but now this is the first time I'm going to attempt to run the actual train. Oh, let's see if we get all the way around, going backwards. Santa's Express. Obviously this is not nailed down. There's a little bit of dirty track there that it needs to get past. So let's run it forwards. A little bit of a 50% speed. This is about as fast as I'm going to be running it. Right, there's a little problem there. That obviously the rail connector I can see there is not right over there, so I'm going to have to fix that. But other than that, that runs fine. Woohoo! Thank goodness for that. Well, with that roaring success behind me, let's crack on with the next thing. I have my homemade flocks here in these buckets, and what I've got here as well is my terrain glue, which I will have a link always in the description of every one of my videos since I made the video. It's just PVA glue or just normal wood glue mixed with water to be quite watery, and then with a dash of dish soap in to keep it from going off and also to help it to spread a little better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come along and I'm going to flock over the areas that are brown. I'm not going to flock on this because this is where the track's going to go, but I'm going to flock all the way around the edge of the tracks and on these flat areas and also up there. Now this back area here, the kind of hill, will have some trees on it. They're on order, they're not here yet. They're not going to be part of the first go around the tree, but I'll be able to get to that and put them in when it's in place, and I will show you how I do that. So don't worry, you won't miss out. But I'm not going to completely finish it. I'm just going to do that basically because I'm not totally sure how many trees I'm going to put on it just yet. But I am going to flock all around the sides of the track and this first flat area here, just so that I can then get to gluing the track in, which is my ultimate goal for tonight, is to have the track glued in, weighted down, and then tomorrow I can come along, I can do the stones between the tracks, whatever they're called, it's gone for me, whatever, and then we're done and we're ready. So on time even. So let's crack on with this. I will run the camera a bit and just show you how I do it. It's a very simple technique, but I'm just going to get myself all set up, and then I'll bring you back and we'll focus in just on this little area here, and then I'll crack on without the camera running because it's easier for me to run around like that, and I'm still rushing for time. So I've just given my scenic glue a good shake. And what we're going to do is we're going to come on and we're going to paint it on. Now I don't want to cover all of this, I want it to be a bit patchy, so we're not going to put scenic glue everywhere, but basically you put your scenic glue where you want your flock to go, which is pretty obvious, isn't it? So we'll just do that. There we are. So once you've got your scenic glue where you want it to go, what I do is I have a 3-colour technique. So first of all I come along with my darkest green, and I put the darkest green on first. I'm actually running out. This pot has lasted far longer than I expected. I need to make some more, and I will do a video on it when I do, because this is actually a colour I made myself, so I'm going to have to try and colour match it. So anyway, once you've got that green on, you go and you get the other green that you want, which you haven't yet opened the box because you're silly. We'll do this one, and so then you put on a slightly lighter green. So let me get that done. So the lighter green comes on and adds a highlight like this. And you can see I'm really not trying to cover it all. I know a lot of people who do really thick colourings, but I quite like having some of the dirt showing through. And with that one, I then come along with my lightest green, and I just put this in very few places. So this is very much a highlight layer. And finally, we go back to the darkest, which is probably why I'm running out of it, and we just tie it all together with a very fine scatter of the darkest, like that. So I'm going to do that around the whole of the layout, and I'll bring you back when it's done and show you what it looks like. So there we are, first layer of flock done, and I'm pretty happy with how that's looking. I'm going to let that dry now. I'm going to go and spend a bit of time with Rosie. I'm really pleased with how this is coming on. I still need to do quite a lot of work on the rock facing, I think. It's still a bit dark, but it's giving a nice contrast, and I'm really happy with how the colours are coming out. And particularly I'm excited to see the train working, obviously. So yeah, I'll let that dry now, have my dinner, come back this evening and see what else I can do once Rosie's asleep. So yeah, onwards and upwards. Santa's Express is definitely going to run though. The next step, this being relatively dry, involves alcohol, but not the sort you're going to drink. This is in a spray can, and it is the 90% alcohol, 99% alcohol, very high alcohol content. And what we're going to do is we're going to spray this all over everywhere where we've got our flock, and then we're going to put more of the modelling glue on top, or more of the terrain glue on top. So I'll just show this on this area, and then I'll get the rest of it done off camera. So we give it a good soaking, and then I use a dropper to do this. I know some people get a lot of success using a spray can or spray, like the same sort of spray, but I always find that it kind of clogs up and it doesn't work very well for very long. So I've got these big droppers, and I can pick up quite a lot of glue, and then I can just drip it along like so. And because of the 90% alcohol. That will basically spread in nicely, and what we can do after that is we can come along over the top and spray it again to really make sure that it spreads, if you haven't done a very good soaking, as I've not done a very good soaking. This will take a while to dry. I think this is probably going to completely knock my plan to do the glue the track in place tonight. I very much doubt this will be dry tonight, especially with the temperatures we have now. It's not very warm in here, but you need this, otherwise the flock will lift. You need to give it a really good covering of PVA. One thing that a lot of people will find as well, and I probably will, is that it does sometimes take a long time to go clear when you're doing such a thick coat. Don't panic, just leave it. It will eventually go clear as long as you leave it long enough. So yeah, so we're going to put loads of PVA on here. This is going to really, really settle it down, really seal it in place, and yeah, I'll get the rest of this done off camera. So there's a good amount. Then we can come along and we can spray it again, and that will then make sure it really, really does spread out. And if you're a bit unsure, then you can grab yourself a brush and you can also spread it as well. So I'll get this done and then I'll bring you back when I'm doing the next step. Now comes the moment we've all been waiting for. I'm going to glue down the track. So I'm going to use PVA, which I hope is going to work fine. And the idea is I'm going to draw a bead all the way around where the track is going to go, like so. And then I have a paintbrush and some water in the middle here. And so what I'll be able to do is spread that thinly over the track, like so. And then when I've got a glue all the way around, I will then carefully place the track on, then weight it down, and then leave it for a bit, and hopefully that will be fine. This is the moment of truth, of course, because once I've done this, I can't easily move the track again, so I need to make sure that it is very smooth. I will probably also try to run a train around it, just to make sure that it's fine so that I don't glue it in place and then find I've done something stupid. But I will now get this done, and then I will bring you along for what I do next, whatever that is, when I get to it. That gluing experiment really hasn't worked, and I'm pretty sure that there'll have been experienced model railway people shouting at the screen saying, "Why are you trying to glue it? It's not going to work." Because yeah, I think that probably my putting down of grout has meant that there's not a flat enough surface, and it was just never gonna actually glue. So what I'm doing is I've managed to find my track pins, which were in a box, and I did a lot of searching for them. And so I'm just going to pin this track down very, very lightly in place, and I'm going to hope that the application of ballast will actually hold it down really, really well. Because the problem is, obviously, that track pins, this is me pushing a track pin in. There it is, it's in. They're not really, because it's going into foam, it's not really the most solid of holds. However, it will hold it in place, prevent it from being knocked and moved, and then, like I say, when I put the actual ballast on, then that will hopefully hold it a little better and will prevent it from lifting, because this will easily get damaged if I only leave the track pins in. I was going to put ballast on anyway, so this isn't an extra step. I was just hoping that the glue might hold it. So I'm going to push these track pins all the way around, and then I'm going to start ballasting, and I'll bring you along for that ballasting process. I have some ballast. I might use it. I might use some homemade stuff. I'm not sure. But yeah, that was a bit deflating to see that not work, but at least I've got this alternative to hold it in place, and we can move forwards. Just before I start the ballasting, let's have a little bit of train running, shall we? Here comes Santa's Express. It works, nice and slow. Fantastic. There it is, taking the toys to the kids, and with Santa's sleigh in transit. So yeah, even if I get nothing else done, then I've managed to get the train that goes around the tree and it's working. So now I'm going to have to think about this ballast. Woohoo! There we are. It's a little noisy, but it's okay. That's brilliant. So yeah, now I'm going to have to think about the ballast and work out how I'm going to do that. And if I'm going to leave it and not risk damaging it before this Christmas within a rush, because I'm very, very pleased that that is now working. Well, there we are. What a fun build that was. And it really was, as I said in the intro, such a joy to see Rosie's reaction. It really did make it a very exciting moment. And we sat there for quite a long time afterwards with her, watching it go around, saying choo choo and smiling and playing, and then going back to it and saying choo choo again. Brilliant. I'm sure that I've got many years to come of joy at Christmas with Rosie. So thanks for watching. As I said in the intro again, pop your comments below, let me know if you've done this sort of thing or if you have memories from your childhood. I'd love to hear them. I'd really love to hear all those stories. And maybe this will inspire you as well. If you haven't yet done this, to go away, pick up one of these kits, put together a lovely display which will bring joy to your family. So please, as I always say at the end of my videos, stay safe, stay well, and stay healthy.
Is it coming out the tunnel? Boo!
That is pretty cool.